Hello, fellow Star Wars fans. It is Star here, joined by Milton Weber and Ben Maynard to talk about The Mandalorian Chapter 11. This is the Heiress. This is also episode 3 of the season. In this episode, the crossover happens. We get characters from an animated series making a jump to live action, actually portrayed by the same voice actors in their live action role. So this is it, guys. We are here. So much to talk about. So of course, as always, we're going to go through first impressions, starting with Ben. First reactions to watching this awesome episode. It's a little bit shorter, but it sure packed the punch.
Oh yeah, I mean it was a little bit shorter, but you know, quantity is not always quality. So it being shorter, I think it really made the episode better because there was no room for any type of filler, anything. It was just boom, 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 really good from start to finish. And yeah, just it was a blast watching it at 3 o'clock in the morning like I do every Friday.
Yeah, it's just so nice to have weekly Star Wars to this caliber. I mean, I'm going to just say it right off the bat. This was an incredible episode, and it is one of the best episodes of the entire season. Would you agree with me, Milton?
Yes, by far the best episode of The Mandalorian. I'll probably say
Oh,
this multiple times throughout this episode, but I was talking to my brother, and he and I both agreed this episode was by far the most crisp, action packed, story driven episode so far, thus, in the Mandalorian series.
that is some high praise, my friend. And let's just break it down. Let defend yourself on that statement because that is some serious high
Okay.
praise. What makes you say that, man?
Well, I mean, look, just how the episode picked up from where we left the Mandalorian and the Frog Lady and Baby Yoda, and just I felt this episode story beat and pacing was perfect. There was never a dull moment. There was never a moment where I felt like I was like, oh, okay, let's get through this. I felt that even the little Easter eggs that we got were great, perfectly well sat in the episode. I thought we understood the Mandalorian's journey. We understood where Bo Katan wanted to go. We got to see where the Empire's at. I mean, we pretty much got to see a little bit of everything thus far in this episode where the characters are pushing their narratives. And I really thought it was a perfect episode. This episode can do no wrong. And I believe this was directed by Bryce Dallas Howard.
Yes, it was.
And
Mm-hmm.
even her episode last season was one of the better ones too. Like, so I feel like she has a great understanding and a great grasp of Star Wars and what the storytelling needs to be in this universe. So that's why after watching it I was like, whoa, yeah, that blew me away. I've gotten excited to see now next week's episode because of how well this episode was directed, the way it looked, the way it told a story, and it pushed the narrative forward.
Yeah, you said a lot of great points there. We're going to go over in depth, obviously. We're going to get into spoilers. So, any of you haven't watched the episode by now, it's why we wait until Sunday nights to do these because a lot of people take a couple days to watch the episodes. We're going full blown into spoilers. But talking about our reactions to last week's episodes, well, I think we could be safe to assume it was less than stellar for all of us. We had a lot of critiques. We still liked the episode for the most part, but we are hoping for something more. And this episode gives us, at least in my opinion, what we expect from The Mandalorian. We had that awesome season premiere, introduced Boba Fett and Cobb Vanth. And this episode takes it a step further because this episode really pushed the narrative forward. It tells us more about the Mandalorians. It brings in characters that make sense.
Mhm.
It's not heavy handed to see these big characters show up because in other series, like Rebels, that kind of suffered from having these characters show up that were like characters of the week just for a quota of, oh, we needed somebody hyped up in this show to get more viewers or something. No, this makes perfect sense. You have the dark saber involved. You're gonna have characters like none other than Bo Katan. So of course that's what everybody wants to talk about right now. So we're gonna just hit that point home right now. So Ben, what was your reaction to seeing Bo Katan saving Din Djarin from that watery grave of whatever that monster could have been?
Oh, well, my reaction right away, I literally just like jumped up and was like, "Woo!"
Yeah, I know.
Like that was literally, especially when you didn't really see her at first. When he fell down in there, and when she's like, "We got you, brother." I was like, "Oh boy, here we go." Um, So like that was just amazing. Just her whole introduction, how action packed it was. You know, the way the physicality of Katie Sackhoff's acting, that was really great. Like, they really brought her character over perfectly from Clone Wars and Rebels. Like it was a perfect transition. Like there was no, they didn't skip a beat. They didn't miss, how the character was in the previous shows. I mean, obviously Katie knew about the character because it was her, because she's the voice actress as well. So I thought that was an excellent introduction to her character, and I just thought it gave that really big wahoo impact. And like I always say on my weekly experiences with the Mandalorian, I get a message from my grandma Friday evening saying, "Wow, that woman Mandalorian, she was a really badass character." So
Oh my
like
gosh.
getting impacts like that just from general audience members like her or others, that to me is huge, because also Bo-Katan is not just another Mandalorian. She's a big leader, but also she's another really strong female character being brought to the forefront in Star Wars, and it was just executed perfectly in my opinion.
Yeah, Milton, what do you have to say about Bo-Katan being played by Katie Sackhoff, the person that actually played her
Right.
in a show from like 10 years ago? It's insane.
Okay, before I get into Bo-Katan, I love everything Katie Sackhoff does as an actress. I mean, I liked her in Battlestar Galactica.
Okay. See, I didn't
I'm
watch
like,
that. She played
oh yeah, she was.
Starbuck, right?
Yeah, she was really good in that, and I get to see a little bit of that Starbuck character in Bo-Katan a little bit.
Hmm.
Again, anything that she's in, I'll watch it. She's such a good actress. She knows how to bring character and charisma to any character she does. Um, I echo pretty much everything Ben said about the look of the character, the feel of the character. Katie Sackhoff brought this character to life. Now,
Mm-hmm.
clearly, we got to give Filoni, Howard, and Favreau credit for bringing this character into the live action, universe, which is great. But I thought she translated perfectly from animation to real life.
Yeah.
Like to me, I saw the character in animation, and the person, I was like, wow, they're a
Uh huh.
spitting image.
Uh
The,
huh.
the the way her hair was cut,
Yeah.
like the attention to detail
It's
of how they
insane.
translated that animated character into live action was astounding. And like I said, I can I can just guaranteedly say that this was my favorite episode because mainly because of Bo-Katan. I just loved her fierceness. She's a badass. She's in control. And when she talked about the dark saber,
Uh,
boy, did I become a 5-year-old kid.
yeah.
Because like when she said I need something to rule Mandalore, or however the phrase she said, something I need before I can rule Mandalore. I was like, oh, it's the dark saber. And it's like it's amazing. And like I'm thinking, I want to see that. Um, I felt that her character from the jump. We only saw her once so far in the series. By far, you could tell this character's been through some stuff. She's meaningful, and I want to see her more throughout the series.
Yeah. So to put it in perspective, this is not the first time we've seen an animated character make the jump to live action. That
Hmm.
was first done in Rogue One with Saul Guerrera, played
Yes.
by Forrest Whitaker. Now, obviously, Forrest Whitaker didn't play the voice of the character originally in season 5 of the Clone Wars, nor did he look anything like his character from the
None.
appearance and how his demeanor was. So technically, you could say, oh, it's been done before, but they haven't actually done it to where it's been like a direct continuation of the character, like that screen accurate, like you said.
Right.
Unbelievable. Like her armor is exactly the same. Like honestly, I see screenshots of like people putting that one image of her like standing in the hallway of the Gazanti cruiser, and for a second there I thought it was a Clone Wars like screenshot as I'm scrolling through Facebook. Like that's how good it looks. Like you look at the costume,
Yes.
it looks like it's straight out of the Clone Wars. Like nothing
Yes.
changed. They did little changes to make it look live action, of course, because Clone Wars is stylized animation. But holy crap, it's like just so impressive.
Yeah. No, I agree. And like I did see some stuff on social media, and my brother and I were talking about this. He was talking about, the age, like how old is Bo-Katan? Because in Clone Wars they say like she's younger. I said she's only like in her early 20s in Clone Wars.
Yeah.
So this is what 20 years later, post Clone Wars. Like she's going to be her early 40s, and Katie Sackhoff, I believe, is 41, 42.
Probably something
So
around there.
this
Yeah.
works out perfect
Mm-hmm.
that they got to bring this character in. So I was like, yeah, I am so impressed with this series throughout the whole 2 years so far. But the way Filoni and Favreau attention to detail, man, like they are that
Mm-hmm.
they love this property, and this is where I get upset with the sequel trilogy. Is like you had directors like these gentlemen who's doing The Mandalorian. Why don't we get them guys doing the movies?
Yeah.
Like don't get me wrong, I love JJ, but it's like, come on, man. Like you have these guys who are hardcore sweaty nerds turning this live action series into a successful, universally loved hit.
Yeah. So what made me really go crazy is when seeing their introduction of these three Mandalorians. You have
Mm.
oh man, I'm already forgetting the names of the other two Mandalorians. There's one Sasha Banks plays,
I forget her name.
Casca Reeves, and
Yep.
the other guy who I thought was gonna be not Pre Vizsla, the one character from Rebels. Oh man, what is his name? He was one of the Mandalorians on that destroyed
Uh,
planet.
I don't remember.
Oh, that sucks. Forget it.
Yeah, I forget.
It'll come
Mandalorian number 3.
it'll come back to me. But just the action sequence felt like something from the Clone Wars. Like it was so stylistic and brutal. Like you see how good these Mandalorians are at fighting. Like they're known as the best warriors in the galaxy. They go onto that Quarren ship and like one of them does like a 360 like jetpack kick to the face. And then they're like using the wrist blades as they pop out and just like punch into guys, and then like using the whip cords to pull them over and like throwing up, like lifting them up and then dropping them from like a huge height. Like that was sick.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
that was.
go ahead, Ben, I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. I was gonna say that was, yeah. The whole action sequence on that ship was just was phenomenal. And then we finally got on that boat a big whoa moment. I don't know about you guys, but when that guy kicked Baby Yoda's carriage into that thing, it literally made me go whoa, like
Yeah.
So I like having all of those stakes playing in with the whole action sequence with Bo and the Mandalorians, that was like, everything was heightened even more. It wasn't just a normal action sequence of, Din getting saved. It was, the child we've been watching basically being on the line, with the creature that Din was dealing with down there. Like that was like such a big emotional moment. Like, just, we get that big high of, Bo-Katan swooping in, and then it's like, oh no, the child's in danger, like all that.
Yeah.
So I think it was all really well executed, the way they made that whole sequence versus just maybe, I don't know, the Mandalorian walking to a cantina and then running into Bo-Katan or something, So it was good that they introduced her in that fashion versus just some generic Star Wars trope.
Oh yeah, her introduction. This is how you introduce a warrior queen like Bo-Katan.
Yep.
This is how you do it. You put her in this situation, and what I love about this, and we're going to talk in depth about this now. The next topic is the explanation behind why he's not removing the helmet versus why they're removing the helmet. He straight up says, "You're not Mandalorian." To Bo-Katan, who is like the most Mandalorian person that is a Mandalorian. Like, come on, she wielded the Darksaber. She united the clans of the Mandalorian. And how they go, this is what I love about this episode, they go so heavy into the lore. But they make it so, like, anybody could understand what she's talking about. Like, okay, you were part of these religious zealots called the Watch, aka Death Watch. So we see them rescuing him as a child. And he doesn't know any better, because at that point, I guess the Mandalorians are going to be splintered around after the fall of Mandalore. They're all over the place. So he's set in his ways, and that's why he says, "This is the way." Now we get like the meaning behind that message is like, "This is the way," and Bo-Katan's like, "No, this is the way. Like you follow this way, but you're oblivious to our other ways." So what'd you guys think about that explanation, which we got in this episode, which is great?
Loved it. I purely loved it because, look, we all knew Bo-Katan way before we knew the Mandalorian. So anything she says, I'm going to be like, okay, she's right. Like, because I saw her fight with Anakin, Obi-Wan, Ahsoka. So her credibility on the Mandalorian culture, to me personally, supersedes anything that Den has to say. And not saying that he's wrong, but she's right though. Because she mentioned, she's like, oh, he's one of, I think she said he's one of these people or something like that. She might have
Yeah.
threw a jab at him, and I was like, oh. And then like once she
Yeah.
explained it, I was like, okay, that makes sense. And then it's like, well, you're right. He was found by, the Watch, and they were foundlings, and I guess being a foundling, you're a different type of Mandalorian.
Oh.
So that, again, that's how I interpreted it. But other than that, though, I mean, I felt that she was within her own reasoning to explain, hey, we take off our helmets because this is how it is, or this is the way for us. So for him, it's just different. But I love the explanation. We didn't have to get into a long, monologue about it.
Mm-hmm.
It was perfectly well done. And I'm curious to see if the Mandalorian that we know now will eventually adapt to Bo-Katan's way of being a Mandalorian.
Oh, definitely. I want to give a shout out to the chat here. We have Joel Davis, and he's saying, The Mandalorian is smart with its cameos. By treating the cameo characters like new characters we've never seen, we are seeing them through Din's eyes. I love that explanation because that makes total sense, right? So far in this season, every episode has been, focused on Din Djarin and Mandalorian. We haven't gotten any side characters that are away from Mandalorian. Maybe later in the season we will. But so far, this series has been very laser focused. That's why it's called The Mandalorian. We're laser focused on that character. So, like he said, these cameos, like I said in the beginning of this live stream, that this feels different than like Rebels, where they introduced Lando Calrissian for a single episode and then you haven't seen him again, right? This is a character I feel like Bo-Katan is a crucial part of the story. As soon as they introduced that Darksaber, I would be disappointed if she didn't have shown up, because you gotta have the lineage of that Darksaber to tie everything together. What do you have to say about that, Ben?
Oh yeah, for sure. I for starters, I agree with everything Milton said. I think to address your initial question, I really think that with her going over the whole Death Watch thing and all that, I think that was really great because it almost like, I guess I would say, knocked the Mandalorian off his high horse, where he's had this belief. It's it's like in the real world, you've had this beliefs for your entire life, and then you have someone basically rip your heart out and be like, no, you've been in this extreme group the entire time and you didn't even know it. So, and a big shout out to whether it was Pedro Pascal or whoever was the body actor in the Mandalorian armor at that time, because the way he like basically put his head down or whatever and then flew off,
Yeah,
like that was perfect, because he didn't even have to say anything, and he really showed his emotions. So that was really, really great, basically just showing how shocked he was.
yeah.
So I thought that was an excellent work of acting by the actor portraying the Mandalorian. And then as for the Darksaber, like you both said, when it comes to them introducing it in the last episode last year, there's no way, especially with all of us Star Wars fans knowing Bo-Katan was alive, to our knowledge anyways, like how could you not bring her in to a Mandalorian type show, especially when you have like the armor going over the history, things like that. Like, I feel like the proper progression would have been to get to Katie Sackhoff playing Bo-Katan in live action at some point. I personally, honestly, if you would have asked me last year, I would have said we probably won't see her this early just because she's such a big character. So I thought that was something. It's interesting that she's coming in, but and in regards to this whole like how you both described, so like them, Jon Favreau and Filoni bringing in characters, but people not having to watch the other material to understand the characters. It's, Bo-Katan's not new to any of us, but to like my grandma or to people, just general audience members, people just see her as, oh, this old, this Mandalorian leader, blah, 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 blah. That's it. And a big shout out to Favreau and Filoni for basically, they're including everyone, because these characters getting introduced mean a lot to the general audience. But for us who've been putting in the time, like consuming all the content, things like that, it's even more of a bonus for us, because then it's such a big payoff.
Yeah, so Joe Davis, he's also saying Rebel issue is that the cameos didn't contribute to the main characters' journeys or character arcs. So far, all the characters have contributed to Din's character in some way. So yes, that's exactly what we were talking about. And going off Milton's point, he was maybe speculating that, oh, since seeing them take off their helmets, maybe he'll adapt their ways. And I feel like that they've been foreshadowing that since like last
Mhm.
season. Like I think by the end of this season, we're gonna see him freely take off the helmet. You know, between characters like Cobb Vanth, who's not a Mandalorian, who wears the armor, to these other Mandalorians, it's not really necessary that he has to keep that identity. And maybe there's a falling out with him and the armor. Maybe him and the Watch, he doesn't see eye to eye with them by the end of the season. Maybe there is a fight between Bo-Katan and the armor. I think there could be some fallout, even though Bo-Katan does say, like, look, we need to unite. Like, there's no reason to fight, basically. But I think that by the end of throughout this episode, I like how you see the transition of the belief of the Mandalorian, and this is what's so great about the character because it's the same thing would happen with Cobb Vanth. Like he was very standoffish, like give me your armor, I will kill you. Same thing with them. It's like okay, but he's willing to like see how they react to what he's gonna do, and he sees them fight and realizes like, oh, these are actually worthy warriors. They're very honorable warriors. Like, you know, she does mention at one point like, oh, you know, you have to take over the ship, and he didn't like that very much. It's like that's not part of the deal. Like, I was just gonna
Right.
get these ammunitions and throw them off the ship or whatever they're gonna do. No, we're getting the ship. But by
Like
the
we're
end
taking
of
it
the
with us.
episode, she helps him and he helps her and they have this relationship where I mean they got to show up again. I think probably in a couple episodes they probably will. There's a lot of foreshadowing, but you again another character that the Mandalorian befriends, which we'll probably see again. So that's just like the going thing of this series is that he is very standoffish with these characters and he learns to grow with them, learns to open himself up to believe in something more than his closed off self. So that's something I really picked up on this episode, especially.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think that after seeing these Mandalorians in action and seeing how they interact, I have to say it wouldn't shock me by let's say the last two episodes. I'm just throwing it out there that somehow we get a big Mandalorian like we did last season. We get a big like Mandalorian like team up. This time
Yeah.
is with Bo-Katan and the man Jen or it's not Jen Den and maybe Ahsoka. But I'm sure we'll get into speculation later. But overall, like I said, it was nice to see another side of the Mandalorian culture. It's nice to see that there is that inner conflicts within the Mandalorian culture. Which is cool to because I mean that's real life. Just like Ben said, in different religions, you have the extremists or the
Yeah.
moderates or the liberals and conservatives. So I mean, it makes sense that they would do that.
We got the lowdown show in the chat. Hello, everybody. Hey, what's up, Edwin? He's got a cool YouTube channel. Go check it out. So, getting into another aspect that I really liked about this episode was the Empire. We're seeing the Empire for the
Yep.
first time in The Mandalorian Season 2. And right off the bat, we're getting Star Wars Rebels references to the Gozanti cruiser that we've seen so many times in Star Wars Rebels, the ships that would ferry the TIE fighters through hyperspace since they don't have hyperspace capabilities. And if you guys have played Star Wars Star Wars Squadrons campaign, you see tons of Gozanti freighters around. So I was, squealing with joy just actually seeing how that was in such a big part of this episode. And it was awesome seeing the Mandalorians just go toe to toe with stormtroopers, like just owning them so bad. Like at one point, the Imperial officers, which I love seeing, by the way, we haven't seen Imperial officers in this era since like Return of the Jedi, so I was very happy to see those guys in uniform. But they're like, oh, there's 10 of them, and it was like, no, there's only 4 life forms. They're Mandalorians. Oh no! Like you could just see the fear on these Imperials' faces, like they are so screwed right now. Would you guys react to that whole sequence with the Imperials?
Oh yeah, I thought it was great. Well, heck, even when uh, when Bo-Katan says to the Imperial, like, "Hey, just imagine if we have a whole legion of Mandalorians."
Oh,
Like, so like that, that shows how badass she was. But in regards to the Empire, like, it was great just see, um, I think one part of this show, like we've talked about, the Mandalorian itself, himself, and the characters around it. It's good seeing kind of like the boots on the ground Star Wars, like not not always the top galactic implication type deals. And sure, this whole mission, like obviously Moff Gideon cares about these guys, but he doesn't care that much. They're not significant to the overall Imperial cause. So it's great seeing kind of like the everyday Imperial officer per se, not just the highest admirals like Grand Moff Tarkin or Thrawn or whoever. So it was great just seeing that, and then like you said, Chris, it's just seeing how shocked the Imperials were when they were like, oh, only 4 Mandalorians. That was really nice. And then of course, John Carlos Esposito, like he was born
We need
to,
more of him.
he was born to play an Imperial officer. Like him just saying long live the Empire, like
Yes,
it just
so
gave me
good.
chills.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
it literally made me about cheer like when he said that, because it was just he just said it so well. Like, and he's a character I could just picture in the original trilogy right there along with Tarkin or the Emperor or whoever, and you could just drop him right in just fine. Like he plays it perfectly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want
I
to talk
totally
about.
agree.
Oh,
And,
go
and
ahead, Milton.
this was crazy. Like I'm not even gonna lie, when he said that, in my head I'm thinking we need a spin-off show, or at least a couple episodes perspective of what the Empire is going through. Because I'm thinking because to me, I got the feeling that the Empire, yes, they're still like trying to maintain relevancy and rebuild things, but I feel like they are in more control than what we think they are. Because honestly, they were there on that planet and nobody were bothering them. It was like, okay, yeah, we know the Empire's
Yeah,
here, let them do their thing.
yeah,
And it's like, wait a minute, if you guys
uh-huh.
sign that treaty and you're on the run, it's like no one's gonna mess with you at this point. I would think someone would like say, hey, call the
Yeah,
New Republic, the
yeah.
Empire's here. They acted like they were just in control of what they were doing, and it shocked me. So that made me think like something else is going on that we don't know about when it comes to the Empire and what's really going on with their story. I really want to see more of that. I mean, I know this show's about the Mandalorian and the child and his journey in the season, but not gonna lie, after seeing Moff Gideon talk to that Imperial officer, I'm thinking we need more of the Empire. I want to see more of that perspective and what they're going through.
Yeah, so we're on this fishing planet village of Trask, and they do mention it's a black market planet. So
Hmm.
we know the First Order has roots in kind of shady dealings like this closer to the Bloodline book,
Hmm.
like 5 years before. Like there's like really seedy stuff going on with them. So yeah, what really piqued my interest was the mention of the Imperials having a fleet. They said something about the fleet. I'm like, wait, what? Like up
Yeah.
until this point, we thought, oh, like maybe they have like a rinky-dink little like freighter or something. Like they have a fully fledged fleet. Like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. I want to talk about the extremism of the Empire at this point. Like they are willing to just kill their people. Like Moff Gideon's like, you know what you have to do, and the Imperial without much of restriction just goes and shoots his 2 pilots, and
Yep.
then he has the loyalty to basically chew up on like a Star Wars version of a cyanide pill to kill himself rather than let them take the information in the ship. It's like, holy crap, this reminds me of like the fall of the Nazi Empire, like
Yeah.
Germany. Like it's just like really dark stuff that we haven't really seen in Star Wars ever. Like I'm like, oh, they went there.
Oh yeah, that literally, I just thought of like, the Captain America movies, the Hail Hydra stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, I can't believe they actually went there. Like, so that was crazy. But again, it like you said, the key lines that were talked about was, the Empire having a fleet. Um, Also, I think a line that was almost overlooked as well, is Bo-Katan saying the coming conflict. So I think that's more foreshadowing. And then also, like coming out of like last week's episode, the Dave Filoni and the other pilot saying these are trying times. So we have the
Mm-hmm.
trying times, coming conflict, the Empire's fleet, like all these things. I think it's leading up to what we were talking about, a potential all-out big type of battle at the end.
Yeah, so you have even that you mentioned all you were rattling off all the names of the people mentioning the foreshadowing of dark times. You even have the Mon Calamari bartender or waiter says you have to eat this because we all need to nourish ourselves right now. Like, whoa,
Yep.
like this is a really bad time apparently. Like I can't wait to know what the heck is going on here because we don't have anywhere near the full story going on with these first couple episodes of season 2 for sure.
Yeah, 100%. And like I said, I agree with both what you're saying. And like I said, I think something's big is coming. Yeah, I think right now it's the focus on getting this child back to the so-called, to the Jedi. But there's something else. I just have a weird feeling that we're going to get something big that's going to crescendo at the end of this season, and I think it has something to do with what the Empire is planning. And I think we're going to get more seeds of that because again, Moff Gideon isn't a nobody character. Like he's been established since season 1. So where's he at right now? What's he overlooking? What's his role in the Empire? Let's be honest here. Like, are Moffs still, high up like that? So I mean, again, I think it's very interesting that Dave Filoni, Favreau have done a really good job at giving us seeds of the Empire. They really haven't given us like chunks of saying, "Oh, this is what they're doing," which is smart because you still want to keep it on your main character.
Yeah, I want to know if he was part of the Emperor's contingency. The Emperor had a plan in the
Oh
Aftermath
yeah,
trilogy,
Yep.
to
right.
make it look like the Empire was completely defeated so that the First Order could reemerge like 30 years later and just take over the galaxy. But maybe he gave him a mission to like look like the Empire was still around just to give a distraction to what was really being built in the unknown regions. Or is Moff Gideon like an absolute loyalist and he's his own man and he feels like the Empire is something he needs to build up? He doesn't have a directive from anybody higher up than him. We know from Star Wars Squadrons campaign, we know from the Aftermath trilogy that I keep referencing, that the Moffs are squabbling against themselves. Like you
Yes.
have Ray Sloan going against another Moff, and they're all just like naming themselves as Moffs at this point because there's no organization or structure. And this is within the first year after the events of the destruction of the Death Star, where this is 5 years later. So all of that by now is probably brushed over, and I guess Moff Gideon at this point is probably like the de facto Imperial remnant leader at this point. And we've talked about this a lot. It's just like, what is his role? What is he doing? What does he want Baby Yoda for? Is it cloning of some sort? Since there was a Kaminoan guy with a uniform that was gonna do experiments on Baby Yoda. So much shade is there. Do you have any kind of speculation with this episode now, Ben?
Yeah, I think this episode, will really push the story a lot more forward to, all of these big events we're potentially talking about. And I think we're definitely going to be getting a lot more Moff Gideon here soon, just because. Heck, I could see maybe the next episode being, uh, you know, a big chunk of Moff Gideon related stuff, because them saying "Long live the Empire," these foreshadowing things. Well, what are they foreshadowing? It's almost like in a movie when you have a character saying, "Let's prepare for the whatever to happen," and then it cuts to the bad side, the bad guy's point of
Yeah,
view.
yeah.
So I think there's a potential maybe the next episode could be an Empire heavy. Like obviously we're still gonna get the Mandalorian,
Oh,
we're still gonna get Baby Yoda. Well, and Carl Weathers is directing the next episode, so
mm-hmm.
we're obviously getting Grief Karga and Cara Dune. I
Yep.
think we're gonna wrap up that. We're gonna finish up that stuff out of the trailer. But I think, say if it's a 40-minute episode, I could see 25 of it being Empire possibly,
Oh
to
man.
to
Yeah.
really maybe potentially hammer home.
Mhm.
Because for one, I mean, there's zero chance we're gonna meet Ahsoka in the next episode. That's not until episode 5, I'm sure, with Dave Filoni. But so I think, what are we gonna fill in the gap between this episode and the 5th episode? And I think there's a potential of, Empire related stuff. Like,
You know what? This is not a bad idea, Ben. And this is why I'm throwing it out there. Is because didn't that Imperial officer say he's like, this is like the fourth time we've been attacked
Yep.
by like
yep,
pirates.
yep,
So like I can see the next episode being okay. You know what? Moff's gonna try to break this down and say, okay, what the hell's going on? Who keeps coming after us? Make it Empire heavy. Pretty much be a mystery type episode of trying to resolve things from why they're being attacked because they must be having other substations or ships around. So yeah, I can see that happening. And in episode 5, we get the Ahsoka reveal.
Yeah, yeah. Going through the chat real quick to catch up. We have Joel Davis. He's saying, I want to know if Gideon is doing his own thing or if he's connected to the group that will become the First Order. Honestly, it could go either way. Yeah, we were mentioning that. He's also
God.
saying, My theory is Gideon is hiding on Mandalore, the planet, and that is where the bulk of his forces are hiding. So yes, I mean,
That's a good. Yeah, that's a smart comment right there. 'Cause that could be a possibility, and maybe that's why she can't go back to Mandalore yet. But then
Oh,
she needs to figure it out. Like maybe she doesn't know he's there. But I don't know. It's because they could tie it in well.
yeah,
I
I
just
just
think I just think I had a light bulb moment, fellas.
okay.
What if okay, remember Den saying, Mandalore's haunted and all that stuff,
Mm.
basically to Bo. Or saying, anyone who goes there dies. What if Moff Gideon has the weapon from Rebels that was shocking the Mandalorians, like killing
Oh,
them in their armor,
oh
and
man.
that's what's keeping Mandalorians off Mandalore?
Oh, and that
I I just thought of that.
that's such a good man. What?
Oh.
Okay, if you're watching Dave Filoni, hire Ben to be one of the writers.
Yeah.
Like,
Because how
just
else
saying.
would it be haunted, or and she's
Yeah.
like, don't believe all the stories you hear, basically, what if Bo knows about that weapon, and that's what's keeping them off, Mandalore, because they wouldn't be able to use their armor.
Yeah. Okay. So we have Lowdown Show. The chat's very active tonight, guys. Thanks for sending in your questions and stuff. It's been fun. He's saying we have Lowdown Show. He's saying that we will get past Fall of Mandalore with Gideon narration. So yeah, like you were saying, maybe next episode we get Gideon. Now that we have Mandalore thrown in there, we have Bo-Katan, the Darksaber. Like the general audience is probably a little bit hazy on that information. Why don't they just go give us a full blown like Lord of the Rings style like previous narration with the battle and everything?
Oh,
It's
that'd
like,
be
oh my
fire.
gosh, that would blow my mind, you know?
Oh God, yeah, I'd watch that episode 4 or 5 times in a row. That'd be nuts. No, no. Before we move on, could you imagine? I think you might have mentioned it earlier, Chris, or someone might have said like, was Gideon would it be part of the First Order's creation? Could you imagine if we had Esposito as a character as Moff Gideon in a sequel trilogy? Imagine how cool that would have been. Like, I mean,
Yep.
like again, again, I know we're talking very highly of Mandalorian right now, but it's like, God, you have such a rich character right now that we could have seen in the sequel trilogy. It's like, oh, it's crazy. But I digress.
Well, we're gonna move on into another big aspect of this episode, and your brother kind of hinted on this. I kind of think this is from Christopher Webber. I kind of think they won't reveal Ahsoka till almost the end. I think that either Den gets tied up with Bo-Katan again, or some other side story. So yeah, I mean, the reason why we're saying episode 5 for Ahsoka, which would be not this episode but the next one, is simply because Dave Filoni is directing the 5th episode, and we know how
Right.
protective he is of his
Oh yeah.
baby Ahsoka Tano since like the Clone Wars. He worked on her with George Lucas, so that is why we're thinking it, right? Like even with Boba Fett, like they teased us with Boba Fett, and we still haven't seen him. They teased us now with Ahsoka Tano. I don't think they're going to show her right in the next episode. They're going to make us wait a little bit longer. But let's just talk about Ahsoka Tano and your reactions to literally hearing her name, knowing that we're actually going to get her after all these months, all these rumors from these very, very verified sites, and it's actually going to happen. What do you have to say about that, Millen?
Can't wait. Super hype. Listen, like, look, I actually have an Ahsoka action figure at my office right now, still in the box. Okay,
Yeah.
that's how much I like that character. I actually bought her and haven't taken her out yet. Um, when she said Ahsoka Tano, because I didn't foresee that coming, because I didn't think we were gonna get that Ahsoka drop yet. But when she said, "Okay, go to this planet," which we never heard of
Yeah.
before, and then she's like, "Seek out Ahsoka Tano," I was like, "What?
Oh.
Let's get it!" And then of course I'm getting hype, and I'm thinking, I can't wait to see her. I'm curious to see what she's gonna look like in live action. Like, yeah, I think we have an idea, but a live action version of Ahsoka is gonna be very interesting.
Oh man.
And then my next question would be, do you think we'll get Ashley Eckstein to do the voice?
I was thinking about that too. I
You
mean,
know, but then was it Rosea Desario? Did I
yeah.
say her name?
Rosario
Like,
Dawson.
Rosea Dawson. There we go. My bad. Um, she's a huge fan of that character and of Star Wars. So like, I could see them saying, "Hey, let's her do the body and the voice too." But then it's like, if you are a huge Star Wars nerd and a fan like we are, we expect Ashley Eckstein's voice. But then it's like, you know what? I can see them tweaking it a little bit to make it more like an older Ahsoka voice, but also like give us that Ashley Eckstein mixture, if that makes sense.
I just don't know if they would hire such an A-list actress like Rosario Dawson, who is great in
I agree.
all the Netflix Marvel shows. I loved it. It's just I don't know if they would hire her just to like do her somebody else's voice over hers though.
No, I clearly, and that's where I went to as well. I'm like, okay, that would be a waste of a character or of an actress. But then it's like, I can see them giving us like snippet like of the. I'm sure they got the technology to blend some voice mixture in there, you
Oh,
know.
that'd
But at
be
the same
cool.
time, again, it'd be cool to see a different perspective of Ahsoka, but keep it true to the actual character, you know, of what she is. But like I
Yeah.
said, I'm super excited. I can't wait. I told my brother this. I want to see Ahsoka use her lightsabers. If we don't
Oh.
get that, I'm going to be disappointed.
Yeah. I mean, what is she doing on this planet first off, right? Like
Yeah,
I'm
because
curious
the last
about
time we
that.
saw her and what's her name, from Rebels,
Sabine.
Sabine, we're gonna go look for Ezra, and it's like, okay, where has she been? Did she find Ezra? I don't. Apparently, she hasn't. But I mean, yeah.
That's the thing. They're gonna have to fill in so much story, right? Or is she gonna even bother to tell Din all this? It doesn't make sense for him to really know that information because he's never met her
No,
before.
absolutely.
So it's
Yeah,
not like
yeah.
she has to
He
do an
don't.
exposition or anything.
Yeah, I just want to know. I need them to tell me, okay, what's been up to the last 5 or 6 years. Pretty much give us some like tidbits of some past stuff that we know about, but clearly give us things that are going to project the story forward. But again, she better wield her lightsabers and she better wreck a whole bunch of people.
Yeah, we're gonna go back to the chat real quick. Here we got Ward Lafferty. He's saying, "I hope the Mandalorian lasts at least past 4 seasons. It seems they have easily 2 to 3 more seasons." Yeah, this episode opened up the scope of the show. I said this on Twitter. It was like the first reaction to me is like this episode opened the scope of the show so much because it was very standalone-ish, and
Mhm.
now it's connecting. And this is what I love about Star Wars is the overall canon. How everything continues the same singular story moving forward. In The Mandalorian, we're going to find out so much more about all these other characters and all these other storylines because it's being interwoven through everything. And I know that Giancarlo Esposito has been very vocal in his interviews to the press, and he has been doing a great job hyping everybody up before this season started. And he even let the cat out of the bag that they're doing, seasons 3 and 4. So if he's already saying that, like, I think this could at least go maybe 5 or 6 seasons. Disney Plus, this is their flagship series. This is what people are signing
Right.
up for their service until the Marvel stuff comes out, is to watch this show with all the hype around it. So that's just awesome. We have another comment in here from John Chuni79. He's saying, "What if Din ends up Mandalore? That way he can make up his own rules about the way of the Mandalore." I mean, this show is called The Mandalorian. Not a Mandalorian, not Mandalorian, The Mandalorian. So you would think like The Mandalorian as like the highest rank or something in his culture. That could happen. I mean, you've played through
Yeah.
like games like No Old Republic, or read any of the books in the lore, and the Mandalore is just like this prestigious figure, like the king almost, and he's very noble, but he's also like the best warrior. I would love to see how that kind of synchronizes into this original trilogy kind of storyline of Star Wars, something like that happening. Man, I would love to see that.
Oh yeah, I think. Well, my thing with that is though, I don't know if Din's a leader though. I think he's
True.
more of like the type of like your Jon Snow type. I don't want to. I'm not going to be the king, like that type of thing. I think there's a potential chance. He helps Bo-Katan get the Darksaber back. We resolve the stuff on Mandalore itself, and then maybe move along from that potential storyline because I don't know if Din comes across as that leader, that king, that type of person. Maybe by the end of the series, maybe potentially he could take the dark saber at the very, the final episode or something. But then again, maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe, I mean, I think there's also potential. When we were talking earlier about taking helmets off, I think there's a potential. Shout out to one of my friends, Alex. His theory. I think there's potential of a theory. Maybe the final episode. Maybe he doesn't find Baby Yoda's species. Maybe he goes back to that planet with that woman, and like the final episode, he pops his helmet off to like live happily ever after or something. Just because I don't see him as the full blown leader of Mandalore. Well,
Eh,
up to this point, anyways, in the series.
I actually kind of disagree with you on that. So I think we're seeing him soften up thanks to Baby Yoda. Like he's becoming more of a sensible character that's more sympathetic. He's not this hard-edged bounty hunter that we've seen in the very first scene of episode 1 of the series. We see him in episode 4 with Cara Dune, like teaching his villagers, like leading by example. We see him in episode 1 of season 2, again with Cobb Vanth kind of planning out a way to defeat the Krayt Dragon. So in my eyes, I think I see a leader starting to be born, and especially if this ends up being like 5 or 6 more seasons, I think especially when we see him remove his helmet and actually just like walk around as Pedro Pascal, I think that's when he's really going to come out of his shell. And he's seen a lot in the galaxy. He's seen the Empire. He's seen the fall of the Mandalorians. That's a lot of crap he's lived through, and I think he's going to lead by example. And that could be like just this awesome hero's journey, kind of like Luke Skywalker, but on his own sort of path instead of that to become Mandalore.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of torn, just because I think he has the potential to be a leader, but then I'm kind of more like with Ben on this one, just because like he's kind of like that anti-leader in the sense of, you know what, I'll lead when I need to. I rather just do my thing, make my bounties, take care of this kid, complete my mission, and just live my life. But then when I think clearly we've seen him help people in need and take that softer side when he needs to be, but also we've seen that ruthless, cutthroat side where he's like, I ain't about this. I just want to move forward. So I'm caught in the middle with that. I mean, there's potential, and like I said, if he becomes that grand leader at the end of the series, great, that's awesome. But if he doesn't, it will line up with what his character is. It makes sense.
Yeah, we have Scrambled Goose saying, I doubt he ends up being the leader. He's more like the loner character from Westerns, or with the child, he's more like the lone wolf and the cub. And see, I agree with that, but I think that this character has chance to be developed into a character that like almost does a 180. And to me, that'd be so gratifying, seeing this character from the very first episode as such like a loner. And then he ends up being like this inspiring hero that people know across the galaxy, like almost like Luke Skywalker. They're gonna like shout the name Din Djarin. He was the guy that saved this awesome force creature that helped save the galaxy from this evil empire and all this stuff.
Actually, now that you say that, I think that, well, now I'm almost going back on my point, because I guess there is a potential for that, because all of these little quests we maybe nitpick about, like the frog people. Well, the frog people, that whole arc was wrapped up. But like the frog people, like the little stories, like saving Cobb Vanth, things like that. Maybe all of these little quests are gonna lead up to that moment, maybe in the galaxy, where like you have all these people that are like, wow, look, here's our hero, like he's finally taken the lead as the Mandalore, type of thing. Maybe all of these little quests are what's leading up to him becoming the Mandalore. So yeah, now, I mean, I guess you almost talked me out of my own point, but but I think that's a potential as well.
Oh man, see, there's so much potential, so many talking points. We have John Chooney in the chat also saying next armor upgrade ? Rocket pack, hopefully. Yeah, I want to see him like freaking Jango Fett firing rockets all over the place. That'd be great.
Well, speaking of the jetpack, that's another significant thing. I think I didn't really see any many like other YouTubers talk about it. He was able to use it underwater.
Oh, I didn't even pick up on that.
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah, he fired it off underwater. Like if you watch that scene again, it fires off underwater still, as in not like the rocket or anything, but like the boost, like to fly. So I thought that was really interesting to see that. I was like, huh. So I don't know. That was just an interesting little tidbit I picked up on in that episode as well.
Yeah, so I want to step away from like the major points of discussion and talk about just a little things in the episode. So the first one being just the awesome introduction in this episode, and it was confirmed. It's totally an homage to Ron Howard's own film, Apollo 13, is it?
Yep.
Yes.
And like Bryce Dallas Howard, her father, she like paid homage to that scene by having the Razor Crest just sink through the atmosphere at blistering speeds to think that it lands safely only to fall over at the last second in the water. I thought that was just hilarious, but it was also had so much tension. Like, man, we haven't seen anything like that in Star Wars. Well, maybe sort of with Revenge of the Sith, but
Revenge of the
nothing
Sith,
like
yeah.
this.
Yeah,
Really.
Revenge of the Sith. But I mean, but even that, like though, like we've seen the Millennium Falcon take a beating throughout the series, and we've never seen it this bad. Like that Razor Crest, I feel like has been beaten through hell, and like I don't know how it's still flying. So, but, I mean, it's a great ship. I think that ship is becoming very iconic.
I keep saying, like, this ship is getting more beat up than the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah, it's taking a beating, and like again, I just don't know how it's still flying, but I'm glad that they make it to where it's becoming an iconic ship now. I think, and something that's recognizable. You know.
Yeah. And talking about this planet called Trask, I really, really like this planet. Gave me very much like, and we were talking about this in the predictions episode we did before we started doing the reviews. I think Milton, you brought this one up. This planet reminds me a heck of a lot of Corellia. Heck of a lot of Corellia. You see that shot, and there's like that crane with like walking leg, the walkers.
Yeah, and that's well. First of all, I think that might be an old like Imperial Walker.
I think
the
so.
Bottom of it. And I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. Like that was cool to see. If that's an Easter egg, I caught it. I loved it. Yeah, like I thought it was very much a Corellia type. Maybe it's a poor man version of it, but it still was very much gritty and grimy. It felt like it was out of Solo, because Solo felt gritty and grimy on Corellia. So I'm thinking, okay, they're really saying that, you know, you're not going to get the wishy-washy, crisp Star Wars of like a what's the planet from Episode 1, the first one? The
Naboo.
Queen was there.
Naboo.
Yeah, you're not going to get Naboo. So it's like you're going to get a lived-in planet where people struggle. There's crime. There's grittiness. There's grime, which I loved it.
Oh man, so it was really neat seeing a fishing village, seeing these amphibious type species that I love from the original trilogy. You got the Mon Calamari, you got the Quarren, and they went above and beyond with these puppetry, mastery, whatever the heck they did was incredible. I've never seen the Quarren have their tentacles moving like that, but it was just so weird, but felt so right. You know, it was just neat seeing these little caricatures. You see the Mon Calamari guy, that was funny as hell when he was like looking at the Razor Crest, just shaking his head and walking away. Like it's just great storytelling that enhances, it does a lot of world building for Star Wars. As much as we got stuff that tied into each other in this episode, there's also a lot of world building. Seeing this village up close and seeing the culture behind how these people are living. You go into that cantina and they're eating like sludge chowder stuff with squids in it. It just felt so lived in, and it felt so damn Star Wars. What do you have to say about this planet Trask, Ben?
Oh yeah, I thought it was great. It was also great. You know, they wrapped up the frog people storyline really quick, so that didn't linger. Even though I thought that was a really good little reunion, whoever the puppeteers were for that, it was really good. And that little scene with the frog people and the Mandalorian and Baby Yoda, that was great.
Yeah.
I mean, and then like you both said, just seeing how lived in that the world was. Because you know we've seen Naboo, we've seen Coruscant, we've seen Mustafar, whatever. And also from the initial shot of the planet and stuff, it seems like that world potentially has different environments where it's not just one large fishing village or something. So that was pretty cool, knowing that. So I don't know, I thought it was really nice. Again, like I was saying earlier with the boots on the ground empire, it's cool seeing the boots on the ground almost every day. You know, people just scraping by basically, because you know even in real life, fishermen scrape by, and like, you know, I'm sure those people are as well. So it was a really good almost reflection of like our own world onto this show, as well.
Agreed. No, and to get back to your point, Chris, about the puppetry. It kind of like when the Mon Calamari, you know, clearly I think some of that's practical, but also too the technology has come so far, because even looking back on a movie, you know, because this is a Disney property, with Pirates of the Caribbean, Davy Jones. Yep. Davy Jones, like that, he looked really awesome, even though it was, you know, the CG mocap. I think they probably used some mocap with the Mon Calamari with the tentacles. You know, because it kind of reminded me of like a Davy Jones, but the technology is really advanced.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see that, you know, Star Wars and Disney, I gotta give them props here, that they're really making it to where we're thinking it's real, or we're thinking it's just practical, and it's like, okay, I'm sure some CG was mixed in there that we just could not recognize, which is, again, that's the point of the CG. Don't make it stand out.
Yeah, it's there to enhance, right? They're
Yeah.
layering it, like that's what they do with Baby Yoda. They layer CGI on top of the puppet, which is already super accurate. So it's like you can't tell. It's great. All right, so just wrapping things up here, we're gonna just give our final thoughts and give it a good old score out of 10. We're gonna start with Ben this time.
Okay. Well, quick little shout out as well to Favreau, Filoni, and all the people working on this project, because clearly somebody over there loves the Aliens movie, because having that thing jump
Yeah.
out on Baby
Yeah.
Yoda again, just like last
Amazing.
episode, they someone who on the production loves the Aliens movie. So like, next episode, if we see a alien burst out of Baby Yoda, we know why. But
Oh
no,
God.
but no, for real. I love this episode. I didn't get a chance to echo it in the beginning along with Milton, but I think this is by far my favorite episode of the series
Whoa.
at all. I would say it's a perfect 10 out of 10.
Whoa.
Nothing wrong with it whatsoever, start to finish. There was no filler, no cringe moments in it, nothing bad. So I think it was a great way to progress the story, to really get into the meat of the story, to really kind of give us the lay of the land, and also just really introduce some good characters in Bo-Katan and the Mandalorians as well. Give us more Gideon, and then of course the big Ahsoka reveal. I mean, that was significant. Like you said earlier, Chris, it crosses over canon, all aspects of canon, from books to games to everything. Like everything's connecting, which is amazing to see. So with that, I would give it a perfect 10 out of 10. And make sure everyone stays tuned for next week's episode, because I have a very, very big prediction for episode 5 already. Anyways, Milton, what are your thoughts?
All right. Again, like I said from the beginning, by far my favorite episode. I'm just impressed with the storytelling that we get with this series, but very impressed with the directors that they've chosen. Yes, the majority of directors are very big Hollywood directors, but you know what? You can tell that they know how to tell a story within a story, and it's a small scope that's perfect for this show. With that being said, 10 out of 10 for this episode. From beginning to end, I wasn't bored with it. I wasn't uncomfortable with it. The storytelling was perfect. The beats were on point. The action, man. I mean, I know that premiere action was awesome, but seeing 4 Mandalorians in live action do what they do, and it's like, whoo, man, I can't wait to see more of them. Get to see more of the Empire. Again, it just progressed the story. It gave us Easter eggs when it needed to. It gave us fan service when it needed to. Perfect episode. Bryce Dallas Harper. Howard, you have my gratitude for what you've done with this episode. I cannot wait for her to do more things within the Star Wars universe. So yeah, 10 out of 10 for me. Can't wait for the next 4 or 5 episodes of this season.
Oh man, those are rave reviews. It's worth noting that Bryce Dallas Howard is the first director in this season that has come back from the previous season. Jon Favreau did not direct any episodes, so I think that being she got her feet wet already, she had an edge on the other directors, because she's like, I've already dealt with the volume. I know exactly how to direct my actors and all that. And she's also really good at bringing in female characters into the story. Yes. She brought in Cara Dune in a great way, and she's bringing in Bo-Katan. And we didn't really say a lot about Sasha Banks' character, Casca Reeves, in this episode, but she was also fantastic as a Mandalorian. And, well, all of my speculation for the character of Casca Reeves was, she's totally going to be an Inquisitor. She's working for Moff Gideon. And I just never thought of her being a Mandalorian for some reason.
Hey, Chris, you still have a chance of that happening. I mean, listen, the season ain't over yet, so you never know. She could be a spy for all we know.
True, because
Um,
remember my prediction was that Moff Gideon at one point was a Mandalorian, so maybe
Yeah.
she was in his pocket and she's his spy with the Mandalorians, and she's gonna like gather up all the Mandalorians and they're gonna slaughter them all with the weapon that is the one that kills all the rebel Mandalorians.
well, one more quick thing, Chris. About Bryce Dallas Howard, another big shout out to Dave Filoni. I don't know if either you saw, but there was a picture going around from her Instagram last year, and she actually posted a picture holding a timeline of all of the major events of Star Wars, Clone Wars, and Rebels
Really?
history that Dave Filoni
Oh.
gave her.
What?
So, yeah, if you just type in Bryce Dallas Howard Clone Wars timeline, and the picture's going all around all over Twitter, that it's a picture from her Instagram just last year, where before her first episode, he gave her a big, a big timeline of all the major events.
Huh.
So that's just a fun little Easter egg type thing to throw in there.
Yeah, so I know I'm eventually gonna get to my final thoughts, but I still have a couple of things that keep coming up. Again, as a person who has watched this darn trailer for season 2 several times, I think we're at the point where there's almost no more stuff from season 2 in that trailer. And I believe that the stuff we have from season 2 is going to happen in the next episode because it all looks like it's on Navarro. We know that's the episode that is being directed by the actor that plays Grief Karga that I can't remember his name.
Carl
Carl
Weathers.
Weathers.
Carl Weathers. I don't know why I'm forgetting
Apollo
that.
Creed.
Apollo Creed. So that you see like the TIE fighter outriders and everything blowing up and the speeder bikes and all that stuff happening. And I think that's going to happen in the next episode. And then that's only halfway through the season. They don't want to show us crazy stuff because maybe Ahsoka's going to be in most of the rest of the season after she's introduced in episode 5. But I digress a little bit. This episode, my final thoughts are fantastic episode. This is another one of those episodes where I had the quote unquote Star Wars high that I keep talking about with these episodes where I'm just like buzzing the rest of the day and I go into work or wherever and I'm like, I need to talk to somebody about this episode now because it's just the only thing on my mind that I have to keep thinking about. Like, you bring these awesome characters into live action storytelling, and it's not that they just bring them in. They do so good with bringing those characters to life the way that they actually portrayed themselves in the Clone Wars, and they are acting appropriately. We're getting that Clone Wars action. We are setting the wheels for the rest of the season. Last week was a little bit of a misstep, although it did play out. As Ben mentioned, that storyline was fulfilled. We knew that we needed to see how the Razor Crest get damaged. We know we needed to know about somebody that would watch Baby Yoda while Mandalorian was risking his life. So that had to be said. But now that that's out of the way, we have the storylines coming together with the Darksaber. We have the Imperials back in the picture. The stakes are just super, super high right now. We know the end of the quest is coming very soon for the Mandalorian, who is quested to return Baby Yoda to a Jedi. What is he going to do after that? There's just so much plot threads going on right now. We haven't even seen Grief Karga and Cara Dune yet, who are supposed to still be a big part of the series. So there's just so much to say and so much to see left of this season. It wasn't a perfect episode for me. I'm not going to give it a 10 only because we're like still halfway through the season. I feel like there's still going to be episodes that are probably even better than this one. So with that being said, I got to give this one, let's go with a 9.5. I'll grade it slightly higher than I graded the premiere. Because I really love the premiere because it's on Tatooine and it's like one of my favorite planets, and Cobb Vanth, and again another cool canon character showing up, and just a fantastic job by Jon Favreau directing the episode. But you know, this episode's a little bit shorter, it's a little bit snappier. There is absolutely like no downtime. The little bit we have in here does give us a lot of information without too much overload. So again, the writing, everybody involved with this episode did a fantastic job. So it gets a 9.5 for me, a 10 from both Milton and Ben. So with that being said, you guys can follow Ben at Ben Maynard on Twitter, real Ben Maynard on Twitter, and you can follow Milton at Milton Weber 7. I'm of course at Star Raptor on the channel. I have coming up a lot of Star Wars videos this week. We got a lot of things coming out. It's going to be the Star Wars Lego Holiday Special coming out on Tuesday. Don't forget about that. You also have another episode of The Mandalorian. We have a new Star Wars game that is coming out on Oculus Quest 2, Tales from the Galaxy's Edge. So I'll be playing through that. I'll be reviewing it, and maybe I'll show some gameplay if I could figure that out. It's a little bit tricky with VR headsets. So if you guys aren't already subscribed to the channel, make sure you do that so you don't miss out on any of that content. So that's going to do it for me, Milton, and Ben. Until next week, remember we do these every Sunday at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. Make sure you guys get in a couple reps watching the episode and join us again next week. I do want to send a very special shout out to everybody in the chat. The chat was awesome tonight. We had a lot of activity here. We had Alex, we had Lowdown Show, we had Scrambled Goose, we had John Juni, we had Ward Lafferty, we had Joel Davis, we had Christopher Weber, we had Dr. Holocron. Yeah, you guys were awesome tonight. Please join us next week.
Hey, listen, guys, invite your friends back to this, man. Like Ben, Chris, and I, look, we legit love Star Wars. We legit love the chat. We love that we get the questions. Again, my brother and I talk it every week. So again, invite your friends to watch this if they have questions. Because listen, we're having a good time here, man. We're having a good time.
Yeah, well said, well said. So hope that we see you guys all next week. Have a great week. May the Force be with you, and this is the way.